You signed 2 professional contracts last summer. We'll start with the first one, signing with the Santa Fe Fuego of the Pecos League. What was that process like in terms of reaching out to teams, signing that contract, and playing in that first professional game?
Yeah, so the Santa Fe one kind of happened over a course of a week. It took for that to develop and fully, play out. Coach had some connections, I think, with Babson, or I'm not really sure who it was, but to Santa Fe, so we could reach out and, just try and contact them, see if there's any interest. And then I got a call from the manager at Santa Fe. I'm pretty sure I was working out in Clark. And, he's kind of telling me, but hey, this is how things are. This is how things go. We'd love to have you, yada, yada, yada. He's like, so, let me know if it can work out on your end, as soon as you can. So I'm again, in the middle of doing something. So I'm it's all happening so fast. And I'm all right, I'm going to try and make this work. I'm going to try and make this work. It took a week-long process to try and put me in a host family, which was actually with another player who had a car. So then I would just, commute with him back and forth. So then eventually once I got there, now there's a little rep with the Pecos League. It's definitely the lowest kind of form of professional baseball you can play. But with that said, the people that are there are absolute grinders, right? You're not there because you're not getting paid a lot. You're there because you're just looking for an opportunity to get up to the next level. So when I got there, obviously I wasn't expecting these big stadiums and everything. I was just, I want to play ball, put up good numbers, and hopefully move on to a better league. And that's really exactly what it was. I mean, the manager for Santa Fe, TJ Zarowitz, was amazing, great manager, and he helped me kind of progress eventually to, signing my second contract. But the players there, as far as, skill level, there were some dudes. It was good competition. Again, the fields and everything, it's not UMass Boston, right? I mean, even though you're at the professional level, it's just the funding's not there to take care of the stadiums, to pay all the players. So you're there to play baseball and get better. And I was there for a month, and that was pretty awesome. All the guys there, great teammates. I'm still actually pretty close with a bunch of them right now that, they're still playing too. And I only played them for a month and talk to them all the time. So that experience was pretty awesome.
You mentioned the Pecos League being a little bit different, kind of lower on the totem pole of independent league ball. One of the things I found interesting was the players are in charge of getting themselves to games, and the league goes from Kansas to California. What was that like? Do you have any fun stories kind of getting to games, or even how do you maintain some semblance of a routine? Baseball is all about getting into routine, kind of knowing yourself. How do you do that when you're driving hundreds of miles for a road trip?
We were, like you said, responsible for getting ourselves to and from the game. So home games is no problem, and we would do 3 to 4 game series. Road games, different story. Because of just the nature of that league, we play basically every day. So, let's say we have a night game, last home game of the series. We're done. It's probably 10:30. You clean up, you do what you got to do, but then it's hey, we got a game tomorrow in Kansas, and that's about a 6.5, 7 hour drive. So, the skipper sets up a time hey, this is when we got to be at the field. We don't check into the hotel until after the game. So, hey, this is when you got to be at the field. So you can either, drive tonight or wake up early tomorrow, drive tomorrow, whatever you got to do, just make sure you're there on time for tomorrow. What we would always do was we would just sleep in, get our rest, wake up early the next morning, and then, drive that day. But that's hard because sitting in a car for, 7 hours and then you got to go play a game, it's not what I was used to. I mean, we would have some of those bus rides, Eastern Connecticut. We never went to Western Connecticut, but I mean, you can't even really compare because, I mean, even on a bus, at least you got a little bit more room, It was tough. but I mean, once you got there, you did that, you got to Kansas, for example, we're in the hotel, we got a 4-game series, then every day it's only a 5-minute drive to the stadium. So it was just that initial travel, getting used to, and then also not having the day off to kind of, rejuvenate, to recover from the game before. So that was definitely a tougher transition, And one thing I do want to point out was when we were in Santa Fe, the elevation was like insane compared. I don't know how high up we are, but we were well over a mile, so the elevation, the breathing is a little bit different. And then while you're traveling to these other places, they're closer to sea level. So that was something I was totally not used to either. Like, you get winded pretty quick. So it definitely took a toll.
Did you guys, or did anybody on the team ever kind of cut it close on one of those road trips where maybe you're supposed to be there at, 3.5 hours before a game, and maybe they made it a little bit closer to 1 or even half an hour?
Yeah. So my first game, actually, no, I'm not driving, right? I don't have my car there. I don't take any blame for this. I'm staying with this guy. Yeah, I was staying with him and his family. He was my host family, actually, and he was also a player on the team. Great host family. So it's my first game. My first game is a road game in Kansas. So I don't know the time zones there, right? I'm not the local. I don't know how this works. So apparently Kansas is in a different time zone than Santa Fe, and they are an hour ahead. So we're driving to our first game, and everything's all right. We're going to be there on time. And then all of a sudden, like, the time changes. And now we're going to be like an hour late. And this is my first impression. And I'm like, dude, are you kidding me? Like, I'm going to be an hour late to my first game. Like, I'm like, dude, how'd you not know there was like a time change? How'd you not know we were going through, a time zone shift? Because he lives in New Mexico. So that was just kind of like a funny joke that we had first experience, and I'm an hour late. I'm like, great, like, I'm going to get cut already.
You started the summer in Santa Fe. Was the goal to stay with Santa Fe throughout the season? Because you guys missed the playoffs, and in the long run, that might have actually helped you get those handful of games at the end of the year with Gary and the American Association. That season went a little bit longer. Their playoffs started later. In a way, did missing the playoffs, you guys finished, I think, 4 games under 500 with the Pecos. Did that help you kind of get that second contract and maybe move a little bit further along in your career?
I don't really know. One thing that was interesting was about halfway through that month I was there, so we're in mid-July, I start getting calls from the Rail Cats. And he's kind of asking me questions. He knows I'm in Santa Fe somehow. That they do their research. They know things. Now, I haven't been in contact with them since the tryout. So now the coaches are calling me, asking me questions. Then they're talking to my Santa Fe manager. Then they're talking to Coach Eigerbrodt, getting all this information on me mid-July. And then eventually they're like, hey, like, can you get your at-bats on film for us today? We just want to see some things. So, again, mid-July, right? And I get my at-bats on film, wound up having best game of the season that day, luckily. We send the video over to him, and in my head, I'm like, dude, like, they're picking me up tomorrow. I'm feeling good. I'm like, they're going to pick me up tomorrow. And then it doesn't happen, right? Of course. We go throughout the whole season where I'm thinking, okay, they might call me today. They might call me today. Nothing, right? So, which actually I think was good, because as the season progressed, my numbers got better and better and better. I had a terrible start. So maybe that did kind of help out that, they didn't really make a move because I guess my numbers weren't there yet. But as the season progressed, numbers got better. Then the season's over, still hearing nothing. I know they're interested. I know they want to make a move, but there's just no confirmation as when we're going to make a move. So when the season ends, the next day, I fly out to go back home. Back to Boston. And then since I know the interest was there, I'm just playing in like a local men's league that I played on the summer before. So I'm still playing with all the UMass guys like Ed, Booty, Tremendozi, Burgos, Corm, Danny Brown. And I get a call in the middle of that game. Don't know why I was near my phone. and they're like, hey, can you come out in 2 days for like another workout? So like the tryout I went to them before was kind of like an invite tryout. There was maybe like 20 guys, but then this workout that they wanted me to go to was just me and another kid, another outfielder, so they can just get like a hands-on better look. And then I guess if we had playoffs, if we made playoffs with Santa Fe, it probably just would have postponed that a little bit longer, you know, which maybe because eventually when I did wind up getting signed, the season was basically over already. So maybe if we did make playoffs, they wouldn't have made that move. You know, I don't really know.
What was playing for Gary like? I know the American Association is one of the better independent league ball leagues. Your numbers weren't quite as good there. You struggled a little bit with Gary, at least at the plate. But what was that like? I'm sure the players were a little bit older, a little bit more experienced. And I know from having seen that league before, sometimes you get some guys who have been in affiliate ball, maybe even in a little bit higher affiliate ball, who end up in Gary trying to revive their career or just continue playing.
Yeah, so I guess what was good was playing in a stadium of that kind of nature wasn't too foreign. I mean, because being in 2 College World Series, we're playing in those stadiums in Wisconsin and Cedar Rapids. The stadium that we had in Gary was just as good, if not better and bigger than those minor league stadiums. So that whole atmosphere, that wasn't like an uncomfortable thing. It was something I was kind of used to a little bit. One thing though was the relationship you have with the players when you're the new guy. So in college, I'm used to, you know, the team camaraderie, like, you know, everyone's, you know, together, you got a close team. Santa Fe was honestly kind of like that too, because it's more younger guys that, you know, just out of college. So I think that whole mindset is more fresh with all those players. When I got to Gary, it's like you said, older players with affiliate experience, players that have gotten drafted, that are trying to keep their career going. And now it's actually a career, right? You're making way better money than I was in Santa Fe. And when you're the new guy, everyone's like, okay, well, who's the guy that's getting cut? You know? So when I got there, there was already about like 6 outfielders. You know, you get your lockers next to all the other outfielders, you know, which is cool. But at the same time, it's like everyone is now looking at me like I'm the guy that's going to take their job. So it's hard to have that relationship that you would with college players when you're the new guy on some of these independent teams, because players move in, move out left and right. I mean, the transactions are crazy. Because either if guys are doing really good, maybe they go and get picked up to affiliate. If guys are not doing bad, there's plenty of other guys that can play that will just come in and take your spot. So it was just hard to get comfortable, you know. The competition there was definitely significantly better than the Pecos League, but was actually, I thought my start, even though it was bad in Gary, was actually better than my start I had in Santa Fe. Like, I thought I was hitting balls a little bit harder, better. And then the season ended. So I never got that chance to kind of heat up and get going like I did in Santa Fe. But no, playing, you know, in front of the fans, and, you know, like I think one night we had 3 to 4, maybe 5,000 fans, because it was like a firework night after the game. So it was like all these kids coming out. It's cool, you know, and especially coming from Santa Fe where things were not as nice, it makes you appreciate, you know, when you get to Gary, you're like, wow, this is awesome, you know.